the big picture when we're talking about osteosarcomas. You got to be very proactive. You got to get on something.
Absolutely.
If it's going to be surgery to remove the affected limb, get that done as long as if you feel comfortable with it and if it's safe to do for your dog's age. And from there, you need to be positive.
Yep.
And don't wait. If you have your own fears, fine. But think of the as my father-in-law would say, the health and welfare of your dog, because your dog is counting on you. And
yes, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't come to this when nothing else has worked. You gotta start the cannabis right away. As soon as you find out, start it right away. Not after nothing else has worked, because now it might be, far gone or whatever. The sooner you get to this, the better. The sooner you start the cannabis, the better.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show, the Healing Project podcast. I'm Jesus Ramirez.
And I'm Isabel Ramirez.
And welcome back to our show. We just had another podcast debut a couple days ago, and it was over Elizabeth Tatum's and Raven's dog. He had a glioma in the brain. Inoperable. And the video showcased a lot of the things that we did with her. We talked a lot about how we were able to help Ray-Ban and how she was able to, do a lot of the protocols. And so just wanted to touch on that a little bit. If you guys haven't seen it yet, check it out on YouTube. The video's there now. And it's with Elizabeth Tatum. Also, what we've been doing, just so you guys know, we have been working a lot with getting other videos put onto our YouTube channel. We're actually going to be cutting down some of the videos so that they're not so big as well. Some
bite-sized
a little more bite-sized.
Yeah.
And so in the next couple of months, we're going to be working on that, getting that all figured out. But we're really excited for this podcast. We have a very special guest on the show. Her name is Sheri Rapp. She's been working with us for 4 years now with her.
What year was that?
2017. We'll let her talk a little bit more about that when we met her. But she's going to be talking about two of her dogs that we helped. They both were diagnosed with osteosarcomas. Osteosarcoma, guys, those are, in our opinion, very, very difficult to get rid of. As a matter of fact, most vets will tell the client, the patient, the parent, that the cancer is, not only inoperable, but at most times,
do much
chemo, radiation won't do a whole lot for it. It's mostly palliative. So just, this video is going to cover a type of cancer that we've helped before, but it is very aggressive, very stubborn. In my opinion, one of the most toughest type of cancers to get rid of. And so without further ado, we'll get Sheri on the show now. I'll let her talk a little bit about herself, but Sheri, are you there?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi, Jesse. Hi, Isabel.
Hi, how you doing?
Awesome. Can you hear us?
Nice to talk to you guys.
But welcome on the show, Sheri.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We've been wanting to have you on the show for a while. We just recently got all of the details worked out of how we're going to get, we're going to play all these videos and everything. So Sheri, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and, how we met and that kind of thing. I mean, it's a lot of information there, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I was born and raised in New Jersey. I was a bartender for 30 years, started my own dog walking pet sitting business. I've been involved with dog rescue with a great all breed dog rescue called Rogers Rescues for about 15 years. But I started off with other rescues before that. I sucked at fostering. So I ended up having 5 dogs and 4 cats. And so, of course, the more you have, the more situations arise and whatever. I lived in New Jersey my whole life, moved to coastal North Carolina 2 years ago. And here I am. My animals are my world. My husband and I don't have any children, so they're our children. So there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. And I found you when my second dog My first, I had a Great Pyrenees Tyson years ago who was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. And it was in his foot, which the doctor first thought it was a fracture. They had it a cast on his leg. And, we pretty much were wasting time with that because they thought it was just a fracture and he had a cast and it didn't heal. Then they recasted it. And then they found out, oh, wait, this is bone cancer. And the doctor's like, well, there's really nothing much you can do. I'm like, well, we got to do something about it, And they amputated part of his foot. And I went to go see an oncologist, of course, because way back then, that's the only thing that they told you was your option was either keep them comfortable or chemo. The oncologist made me feel like, if you don't do this, your dog is going to die, whatever. And I was a little hesitant because I know sometimes dogs get really sick and whatever. I did 2 rounds of chemo with him. He was so sick. He was so miserable. And it made what time he had left just absolutely terrible. And I said, you know what? I'll never do this to another dog again because he was great. I mean, he was in great shape otherwise, but the chemo made him so sick. And I said, I'll never do this again. And fast forward to 2017, when my dog Ben, we thought it was a torn ACL, then it wasn't that. We thought it was a muscle sprain, whatever, all these other things. And then finally, after so many months, then he had Lyme's disease. He tested positive for Lyme. So the doctor thought it was possibly that. And we found out bone cancer. That was in October of 2017 that started. And then it was like the end of December 2017 that we found out it was cancer. So now I'm frantically searching the internet, looking for alternative treatments other than chemo because I didn't want to go that route with another dog. And I found Tino's My Dog Beat Cancer with Cannabis page. And that's how I found you.
Awesome. Yeah. When we first started talking initially, I believe back then, Sheri, you were kind of one of the first people that I had to help with.
Yeah, I was.
You and I talked about, hey, this is not something that we typically help, and we haven't helped a lot of dogs. But at the time, Isabel and I were still thinking, you know what? The protocols that we've developed are still going to be helping. It helps any type of cancer. And we put that theory to the test when we met you, because we basically gave you kind of the same instructions that we would give somebody else. The only different thing that we did with your dog, Sheri, in the very beginning is that when it comes to osteosarcomas, and this is kind of the consensus, that osteosarcomas require more THC to get rid of them. And so what we did in the very beginning is we started off the dosage like we normally do with CBD. We got that dosage up, and eventually we introduced the THC. But at some point, we got Ben's THC to a pretty decent amount.
Yeah. Yep. And, it's interesting because when we started him, I know you had asked, how did I feel about this? So I got to be honest with you. I'm somebody who I want to try to find natural remedies before I jump right to pharmaceuticals. I'll jump to pharmaceuticals when nothing else natural has worked, because I know sometimes a medicine will treat something and cause 8 other issues. So I was super excited when I found this. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And you know what? I got to be honest with you. I was a little nervous because I didn't know you. And I'm like, okay, this is some guy on the internet, but I was so excited to try this. I was nervous. I was scared, but I felt great that I'm finding something natural that I'm going to be potentially helping the dog. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but I knew that I did not want to do chemo. And I was super excited about finding something natural to help him. And I was anxious to see. My vet, thankfully, was all for it. I had an awesome vet. And moving Dr. Capodanno, my vet, from home, he was the most awesome vet. He worked with me, not I'm the vet. I'm going to tell you, he knew all my craziness about looking and researching up different ways to treat things, and instead of just pharmaceuticals. And he was all for it. And he was anxious to see how this was going to work out as well.
So did you get to do any chemo or radiation with any?
Ben, absolutely not. I did not. I did go see an oncologist just to show the x-rays, for her to look at them, just to confirm that, yes, this was osteosarcoma. And I said to her straight up, I'll be honest with you, I'm not here to, schedule chemo or radiation or anything like that. I'm just here just to confirm the x-rays and for you to take a look. And when I told her how I chose to treat this, I was expecting her to go, oh, you can't give a dog, cannabis, especially THC, this and that. And she said, oh, that's really interesting. I'm curious to see how this is going to work out.
Awesome.
So I was so psyched to hear that both my regular vet, who is amazing, and the oncologist were both totally on board with this. So that made me feel they didn't know anything about it. So I was a little nervous, but I said, you know what? I just got to trust this guy, Jesse, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about, and go with it. And I felt so much better about treating my dog naturally, and I just felt so much better about it. Of course I was nervous, but you know what? If my options were chemo or radiation or nothing, or this, and I chose the cannabis, and I'm so glad I did.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Sheri, that in the very beginning, when we first met, you didn't know who I was, and you were kind of nervous, who is this guy and how can I trust him, and that sort of thing. Everybody is in the same boat.
Oh my God.
We do the videos because you're right. I'm not.
It all sounded so sketchy, and I'm like, you know what? Like, where else am I going to get this from? Like, I got to do it. I got to go with it. This is, what? So I'm out the money, but at least I tried, you know? And when the first time I spoke to you, I was like, oh, thank God. Okay.
Well, it does help now that we have people like you and Tino and Elizabeth Tatum that they do, you guys do champion for us now and tell people whatever they're on Facebook wondering, hey, do I call this guy? Can I trust them? And that sort of thing. A lot of times people kind of jump into the conversation on Facebook and start saying, yeah, well, I was in the same. And eventually you got to trust somebody at some point. And so I did want to go back to the surgery part of it. Did you have surgery with Benjamin?
I did. I did. We did have surgery at amputation. It was February 6, 2018. But I started him on oils prior to the surgery, almost a month before that, because they couldn't get the scheduling right and whatever. And I had just had knee surgery, which actually you had advised me to take that for my knee surgery. And it did. It helped me heal faster. And the funny thing was, Benny had his leg amputated. He was walking better than me. He was walking faster than I did. And he had his whole leg amputated. I just had the meniscus surgery. But I started him on it probably a month before his surgery. And it helped with his healing. I mean, I didn't give him any other pain meds. It handled all his pain. I mean, if he seemed like he was in pain, I would have gotten something else, given him something else. But it seemed to manage his pain post-op. And he healed super quick. He was up and walking. I mean, so many people I know are so hesitant to, have it amputate their dog's leg. I'm in rescue. Dogs come in, been hit by a car or whatever. Dogs don't even miss it. That's like a spare tire, like a fourth leg's like a spare tire. They don't need that stinking leg. They're good with three legs. I mean, obviously I know there's some situations where a dog might be older or overweight or it's too much stress on the leg. But I mean, so from what I've seen with so many dogs and with Ben and with Ollie, they walk right out of it all. Like it was just like nothing ever happened. I was so surprised. And I truly believe that the cannabis helped. I started Ollie on it before her surgery as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, the surgery went well and there was good recovery and all that, because when we talk to people that have doggies that have a limb with an osteosarcoma, that's the first thing they wonder. Should we do an amputation, a surgery to either remove part of it, debulk it, remove the leg entirely? What is it going to do for my dog? My dog's almost, X amount of years old and that sort of thing. And what I've told people in the past when it comes to amputations, I'm not a doctor or vet, neither is my wife, but, we've had lots of experience with this. What I've seen with other clients is you're right, Sheri, the leg is more like a spare tire now. If it's a leg, it's a little tougher, but usually the front legs, if they go to they remove one of them, they could still walk very normal and everything's fine. Yeah. The problem is what I've noticed that the vets sometimes don't want to do the amputation if it's already gone to other parts of the body, if it's metastatic spread. Yeah. And so what we'll have is maybe a little pushback from the vets, because what we know, which is once you have the amputation, we get on the protocol with cannabis and we can get your dog in remission very quickly. The vets don't know that.
Yeah.
they won't even do the surgery if they have lung or kidney or brain metastatic issues. And so now we have a problem where we can't have a surgery because the vet doesn't believe the dog's going to live long enough to see benefits. So, when it comes to the healing powers of cannabis oil, we can get your dog into remission with just the cannabis oils. Now, if we did a surgery because the mass is so big, obviously that's going to get us ahead of the game sooner than later. But if we don't, it's not, it's not going to affect how your dog does. It will take a little longer. And at that point, typically, especially because it's an osteosarcoma, we got to be very aggressive with dosing to give your
say that. I remember in the beginning trying to come up with the dosing for this one, and it just felt like it needed more medicine than the other ones.
Yeah.
We talked about that with it was with you, Sheri.
Yeah.
It was with you. You and I would talk about, well, how much are you giving now? How's Ben doing? You would monitor his.
Yep, you're always checking in to see how's he doing.
The euphoric reaction.
And how was that, Sheri? Did he have many times? Because I know the dose was a little bit higher.
He did. I did have to back it up. Benny was so super sensitive to it. But I followed Jesse's directions to the T. Okay, drop it back to the dose that he was doing well at, the last dose, and then we'll slowly go back up again. Like keep it there for a day or two, then slowly get back up again. So I did have to back up and then move up a couple times with Benny. Where Ollie she is like I was giving her Tic Tacs. It was literally, she handled every increase like without a blink, like just, so it's so interesting to see how each one of them reacted differently to it,
So let's talk about that, Sheri. We actually just spoke about Benny, but you have had another dog now that has an osteo as well. And we're helping Ollie with an osteo. So you've had 3 dogs with osteosarcoma.
3 dogs with osteosarcoma. Yep. And you know what? I don't understand why. I do all the right things. They're raw fed. I don't use chemicals on my lawn. I'm mindful of what I use in my house. They don't get treats with junk in it. But you know what? Benny was 11 when he got his cancer. Ollie was 12. And Tyson, as a Great Pyrenees, this giant breed dog, he was 11 as well. So they're later in life. It wasn't younger. And you know what? My mom always said, everybody has to die of something. But the fact that we were able to manage this and give them quality life and give them an excellent life and feel good doing it at later in life. I mean, a lot of times dogs at 12 years old are, not doing so well to begin with, where my dogs were doing perfect. They're perfect health otherwise. And then all of a sudden this showed up. And the fact that I was able to give them such a great quality of life, for me, seeing them enjoy their life and living their life to the fullest is way more important than how much more time it was. The extra added time is a bonus for me, that they got with the cannabis. And I saw how miserable Tyson was, the one who we did the chemo for. And I said, I don't want to do that. I don't care if he got a year but he was miserable for that year.
Yeah.
But thankfully I got 17 extra months with Benny. And that was the vet, the oncologist, they were both they said, I would absolutely say this was a success, because this is the first time either one of them ever had a dog who was solely with just amputation only and cannabis. And Benny, I have to say, I read the Dr. Damian Dressler's Cancer Survival Guide. I took notes. I wrote everything down. I bought all the stuff, all the supplements. I tried to cook the food. He was already raw fed. He wouldn't eat the food. He wouldn't eat the supplements. I was like, I tried it all. I made the golden paste and the turmeric golden paste and all the fish oil and all that stuff, he was a bad eater to begin with. So trying to get everything in him. And so eventually I had to give it all up and say, what is most important here? Important thing to get in him was his cannabis. And that's really what I got. And
how did you administer it? Did you, if he was picky with food, how did you?
Well, that was hard, because my intentions were to feed him just the best diet ever. He was already raw fed, and Dr. Damian Dressler's Cancer Guide said, don't feed raw, feed cooked. So I was cooking all this stuff. He wouldn't eat it. All my other dogs were loving it because they're like, we'll take it, so they were happy he wasn't eating it. I ended up going back to feeding him raw. And then I found Keto Pet Sanctuary, actually, and that's a whole different way of feeding for cancer. And I decided that, okay, so we're going to try to make this keto as opposed to cooked food from the Damien Dressler guide. And, but I had all these supplements and things that I was trying to give him and just trying to get everything into him. So one thing I did learn, empty gel caps are your best friend when it comes to this. To put the FECO in, to put the oils in. And the only thing that I can get in was liverwish, smush it in between the pill, because it's real stinky and high as food, or canned cat food. He ate more canned cat food than anything else because just trying to, he was working me. He was definitely working me for it, you know? And yeah, so empty gel caps were awesome. But I have to say, something I learned from watching one of Tino's videos, to get the FECO, because I actually tried the FECO on my tongue and I was like, ooh, that's a little bitter. Yeah. Like, no wonder why the dogs don't want it, you know? But Tino said, put it on your finger and just smear it on their tongue or on the roof of their mouth. And that has been like, worked like a charm now for me, for Ollie.
Cool.
Awesome.
I seen Elizabeth do that, where she actually puts coconut oil first and then the medicine on top so that it just slides right off of her finger. And she doesn't.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea.
It's real sticky.
Real sticky.
That was a great tip though. But honestly, trying to get, like, for Benny, he was such a bad eater and such a picky eater, trying to get everything into him. So like I said, I pretty much was just cannabis. And because his diet was not stellar anymore, because I just wanted to get whatever into him, because he always was suspecting that something was in it. And he was like, "Ooh, I don't know. You're trying to sneak one in on me. I know it." So getting it in him, but I managed to get it in him. So I really can't attribute it to anything else other than the cannabis, honestly. And he was fabulous. He did amazing. He was back to his whole self. Just great, you know? So I'm thankful for this. And I said, after what I've learned through this whole process is that, God forbid I ever got cancer, my first person I'd call is you guys, because that would be my first line of action is cannabis. From what I've seen, what I've learned.
Jesse, that everybody, you know, they want to go out and save everybody else. And then when it comes time to them, they're like, but at least they have the information that they have with treating somebody that was already in that position. And now the knowledge.
Yeah.
The exact same thing that Elizabeth said, you know, if anything were to happen to her family, God forbid, she would reach out to us right away. And I think that's probably one of the bigger takeaways that we have when we start helping somebody and they're helping their doggy or their loved one, right? They do so much for them and they never really stop to think about themselves. And while that person that's helping the dog, you know, it's got anxiety, can't sleep, and all these other issues because of, you know, how the world's so crazy. And then, you know, the person needs it more than the dog.
Well, they need it, you know.
Well, I gotta say, this time around, after going through this all with Benny, you know, because I didn't know what to expect. You know what I mean? I just, it was all new. It was new. You know what I mean? My vets couldn't help me if I said, oh my God, this is happening, because they didn't know treating a dog this way either. So I had you who, like I said, you were awesome. Like, and at any time, if I tried to call you or text you and you didn't get back to me, I knew you were busy because you were working back then. You had your family, you had your kids. So I would just gently just send another text, like, you know, later on, whatever, because I knew you were busy. And that's one thing too. I say to everybody who I refer to you, I go, listen, this is not like a company with a customer service, like people sitting on a phone answering a phone. This is trying to help thousands of people. Like, you got to be patient. You know what I mean? There's no human resources department, you know, like, you got to be patient. He will get back to you. And if he doesn't, just send another text or drop it online. He will get back to you, you know, and don't lose hope. Like, honestly, I give you guys so much credit because I can't even imagine. It's one thing to be like helping people like with their refrigerator or their appliances broke or something, but this is people's lives and their animals' lives. And I can't imagine the stress that this is for dedicating your life and your time and your family time to helping people you've never met. And I can't tell you how much that means to me. And I know probably millions of other people too, but how much that means to me is you guys are like angels to me, honestly, because I appreciate all you do so much.
Wow.
And I get freaked out. I go, what if something happened to them? Where would I get this from? Honestly, and I wouldn't trust anybody else, you know? I mean, I've had a kind of a long rapport with you guys now, so I know I can trust you. And, I know you know what you're doing. And you're better than any doctor I could go to, honestly.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. We try very hard, just so you know, Sheri, and I'm sure people can kind of sense that we do our best. And you're right. I'm glad you brought that up, because we're not a big company. We do help a lot of people, but it's just us two. And
the
majority of the time, I'm like a chicken with its head cut off, and my wife
can't even imagine
with a plate trying to catch my head that just fell off. And she's over there trying to fix everything. So between the things that we do with our family, that now we're doing with the podcast, and the help that we do for people, it does get hectic. And when I first met you, Sheri, I was still working as a construction manager.
I know. Yeah. I know you'd be driving and be like texting me at like as you're stopping at a light or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad. But you know what? You always got back to me, and you were always so helpful. And I can't even imagine how you didn't sound flustered, because I can imagine that you had to have been. But you always just sounded so calm, cool, and collected. And I would have a stroke right now, because this is way too much. Just imagine your phone, bing, 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 pinging nonstop.
And then add 10% to that.
I don't know how you do it.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got some patience with them. So Sheri, let's talk a little bit about Ollie. Right now, we're helping Ollie with a leg that was amputated, and now we're 7 months after the amputation. How many months?
No, she's 5. She's 5 months right now.
Sorry.
But she was actually, she started in March, slightly limping on her leg. We thought, it was just a sprain. Doctor gave her anti-inflammatories, rest, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Same thing kind of happened with Benny, where they thought it was something else. Same thing would happen with Tyson. Doctors thought it was something else. I've kind of learned through this whole thing now is go right to the x-ray. Don't waste time. Go right to x-ray. Don't mess around with wait and see. Just go right to an x-ray. But she eventually, doctor said, okay, let's do an x-ray. Doctor first told me that it was a slight tear in her ACL. And I'm like, oh crap. So I went to go see a specialist who does surgery on ACL. And I said, listen, at 12 years old, I'd rather do a brace on her leg, because I do know people who brace their dog's legs, and it worked. And I spoke to my vet from home who did all the orthopedic surgeries, like I said, I trust his word on everything. He said, don't do the surgery. He's like, just brace it. It could heal on its own if it's just a partial tear. So I go to see this doctor who does the surgeries and stuff, and just to get his opinion on maybe what brace could he recommend. And he's like, well, surgery is the only option, where blah, blah, blah. And I go, you know what? Can we do an x-ray just to check and see? So he does the x-ray, and he comes back, and he told me the words that I've heard way too many times is it's cancer. And I was like, I just fell on the floor crying. I'm like, not again. Just why? And he's like, well, there's medicines. We could just keep her comfortable, whatever. I'm like, wait, what do you mean just keep her comfortable? I'm like, we got to get that leg off. Mm-hmm. I got to call Jesse. I think I texted you from the parking lot.
Yeah, you did.
I walked out of there, and I texted you. I texted you from the parking lot, and I go, I got another one. I scheduled the surgery that day. We did a chest x-ray. There was no metastasis yet. And he's like, oh, you want to do, because she's 12. He's like, oh, you want to do surgery? He was like surprised that I wanted to do surgery. I'm like, yeah, get that leg off. Hack it off. I got to call Jesse. Let's go. Let's get this show on the road. We got some healing to do here, And that was on a Friday. We had her leg amputated the following Thursday. I called you right away. I got her started immediately on the stuff. And she came home from the hospital. When I picked her up, I said, how's she doing? She walking on her own? She came running out from the back room. Literally running. The text here you go, hold on. I was like, whoa, look at her go. She was running in my backyard 4 days later at 12 years old. And I was just, I think starting her early on it helped everything. It helped get her through her surgery. I think it helped get her through her healing, helped get her through pain management. And she's doing amazing. And you know what? Do I know how much longer she's got? I don't know, but she's living her best life. She's happy. She's healthy. She's back to running on the beach, and she's living an awesome quality of life right now. And that's what's most important to me.
Well, let's talk about what they might have told you initially. Sheri, what did they tell you with Ollie as far as a timeline. And even with Ben, did he tell you it's going to be 10 years before anything?
Oh, no.
Oh,
God, no.
Okay.
Oh, with Tyson, when Tyson, my first dog, he said, oh, you got maybe 4 months. But Benny, the vet said maybe 4 to 6 months if you're lucky, with no chemo, no radiation. They said with no amputation, like 2 to 4 months, because the dog gets so painful that you're just going to have to put them to sleep if you don't do anything. With amputation, I was told like 4 to 6 months tops if you're lucky. With amputation, no chemo, no radiation. So I got 17 months with Benny. So, especially at an older age, I was happy with that. I was thankful for every day. And you know what? He did amazing till his last day. And Ollie's doing amazing.
Good quality months. It wasn't like he suffered the whole time. He was
and
doing well. I remember you and I would check in once a month, if not more, and was doing well.
Yep.
It was cool.
I got to tell you, this second time around, of course I was a little nervous because I didn't know what to expect. And, with any of it, like, how they were going to react to the cannabis, how they're going to, react to the surgery. So I was a little nervous this time around. I'm like, yeah, I've been down this road. This is all good stuff. Like I had the trust in it already. I had the trust in it from being through this already. And I knew I knew that I could trust you. I knew you knew what you're talking about. I know the stuff works. And I didn't even hesitate. My whole mental state is different this time around as well, I think, because I just feel so much more positive, and I feel like I'm treating this in a much healthier way. I'm not killing any other cells. And that's important to me, is to know that I'm not putting any other chemicals into my dog to cause any other issues. It might be helping one, but causing another issue. And
I think you said it initially. Sorry to cut you off, Sheri. I think you said it initially that you said the quality of life is really there. Ollie's is best.
Yeah.
And that, to me, if we're talking about, well, what's the end game? Well, we would love our dogs, our pets, our loved ones to live forever. Right. But if we can't do that, at least for the time that we have them here, because, this all started for us because my brother was diagnosed with cancer. And to me, when I think of somebody who's dealing with a loved one who's got cancer and going through the same thing, I think of what I had to deal with my brother. It wasn't him suffering, it was me suffering through him. And I always think that with the person that we're helping, it's like, yeah, the dog's suffering, but the person too is dealing with some stuff that inevitably will leak into the healing of that other person if we don't nip it in the bud. So I'm glad you said, initially with Ben, it was, having to kind of trust me and learn. But with Ollie, all that was already gone. We were at this level of understanding. Your positivity was there. You had the right idea of what we were going to do. And we implemented it without even thinking twice. We just did it. Yep. We knew it was going to work. And it's thing. Let me touch on that a little bit, Sheri. For the people that are kind of just watching the video right now for the first time because their dog has been diagnosed with an osteosarcoma, here's what we've seen in the past with other clients that we've helped. Osteosarcomas are the most aggressive type of cancers. They do tend to metastasize, which means that other little particles of that same cancer will go to other parts of the body and start growing there, which they normally don't. But because of it being so aggressive, you could have an osteosarcoma growing in the lungs, in the brain, in the kidney, in the liver, spleen, any body part, really. And what inevitably happens with osteosarcomas, and you said it in the beginning, is it becomes so painful that the parent doesn't want the dog or the loved one to suffer anymore, and they have to make some tough choices. So that's, to me, the biggest reason why we want to do cannabis oil in the beginning, because a lot of what we do with the protocol is to reduce inflammation, to reduce pain, to heal the bone so it doesn't fracture, allow the person to then see those things happen in their loved one so that they get some confirmation that it's doing its thing. And now you're not guessing anymore. You're not thinking, well, is it going to work for my dog? Is it going to do what it's done for everybody else? You're seeing it, it's doing it, and now you know it's actually doing something for your dog. That's the big, I think, takeaway for everybody who's watching this episode. Osteosarcomas, your vet will tell you that there's no real solution. There's no way of getting rid of it. I disagree. We've been able to do it with other people. There is a lot, really, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Sheri, you've done so much work, spent money, your own personal time, having to, endure all of these things with your dogs and sleepless nights. That's a lot of work. We understand there's a lot of work, but just know that we can help that type of cancer go into remission as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be amputated either. We've done it without amputation.
Yeah.
The big picture when it comes to osteo is you got to be very, very proactive. Yeah, you got to
be on it. Yep.
And don't wait. If you have your own fears, fine. But think of the as my father-in-law would say, the health and welfare of your dog, because your dog is counting on you. And with your testimonial, Sheri, this is why we're doing it, because we're hoping that you can enlighten somebody else in their journey, right? They're going through the same thing. They're figuring out that this is a terrible type of cancer. My vet's already told me we can't help very much more. And just take your dog home and make them comfortable. Yeah, is not something that most people want to hear. Nobody wants to hear that. I didn't want to hear that when the nurse told me, hey, come visit your brother and spend some time with him, because the time is limited. And I freaked out.
Sure.
We get it. It's not the easiest type of cancer to get rid of, but just know, guys, all of our viewers right now, we can help osteosarcomas go into remission with the proper medicines. Yeah. So just know that, guys. And here's living proof. Sheri's done it twice. And I have to applaud you, Sheri, big time, because what you did is something that very few people have actually been able to do, which is get their dog to a place where the mass is gone and it's not bothering their dog anymore, and their dog can live a nice, beautiful, productive life. You've done that twice.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't come to this when nothing else has worked. You gotta start the cannabis right away. As soon as you find out, start it right away. Not after nothing else has worked. Cause now it might be, far gone or whatever. Sure. It might help make your dog comfortable. Maybe it can work, but I try to tell people the sooner you get to this, the better, the sooner you start the cannabis, the better,
and that's why we do the videos, because we're hoping that when somebody watches like this episode, their dog has an osteo, it will give them that instant feedback like, hey, they've done it with somebody else. It's worked.
It can work.
And I just need to call them and, talk about my dog. Yeah. And that's really it. So the details of how we're going to help your loved one aren't very different than the details of somebody else. The only difference or variable that happens is how long has your loved one had the cancer, and how old and how big is your dog, because those are variables that we use to start the protocol. Right. But inevitably, once we start, when it comes to osteosarcomas, we are very aggressive. We have to give a whole bunch of medicine in a very short period of time, because the cancer is not waiting. It's not going to work for your dog to do that. And so when you started to do certain things, Sheri, when most people talk about what they're doing with their dog, one of the biggest things is diet.
Okay.
When you switched over diet, were you already feeding ketogenic, or did you switch over?
Feeding raw.
I was, with Ollie now. So I was feeding already a raw diet, but I switched over. I tried to follow on the Keto Pet Sanctuary, the ketogenic diet. So I'm feeding Dr. Harvey's base mix, the Paradigm, which is what one of the things that they suggest. They also sell like a ketogenic kibble. Keto Pet Sanctuary sells it if for the easiest route, but I just can't go back to kibble after feeding my dogs raw for so long. I just can't do it. They also sell, you can not sell, but they give you guidelines for if you want to make it yourself and what to add and what to make and how much. Or they suggest a Dr. Harvey's Paradigm base mix with raw and a fish oil. And so it's a moderate protein, high fat, low to no carbohydrate diet. Do I follow it strictly? Some people will test to see if their dogs are in ketosis. I don't do that. Because you know what? I want my dog to enjoy life too. So yeah, she gets her treats and she gets things, she really shouldn't have, and, table food, whatever, because I do want her to enjoy her life too and have good stuff, but I do give her, besides feeding her, a ketogenic diet, she does get a mushroom complex that has turkey tail mushroom in it. She gets fish oil. I give her chia seeds and milk thistle, as well as some other supplements, like for her joints, especially to keep her one back leg strong and keep her strength up in her back legs. Because she's older too, she's 12 and a half. So got to keep that strong. But yeah, I mean, like when with Benny, I wanted to go the whole gamut and give him all the supplements. But once you're trying to get all that stuff in your dog, it's really hard, because then they're like, I don't want to eat. Now my stomach feels sick from all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And bottom line is, the most important thing for me to get in her is her cannabis. And that's first and foremost.
Yep. That's the start of the show. When it comes to additional supplements, diet, being very regimented and sticking to the protocol with the diet part of it, what I tell people is the same that you're saying, Sheri. We don't believe it's got to be 100%, 100% of the time. We can fluctuate. We can take some liberties. If you guys are having, some kind of a meat or protein that your dog give it to your dog and let your dog enjoy their life too.
Yeah. Because that's what it's all about. I mean, I want her to enjoy it. She's not going to be happy eating the same thing every single day either,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if somebody's feeding their dog like a junky food, now's the time to try to get your dog onto a better food,
exactly.
But like I said, I think that first and foremost in both Ben and her was getting the cannabis in her and him. And like I said, he ate a lot of cat food and liverwish and whatever else I can get it with. And it still worked. But, the healthier you try to keep them all around, and, especially like putting toxic chemicals on them, flea and tick stuff, chemicals on your lawn, try to avoid that stuff.
Even
in your home, like stuff, like I make stuff with essential oils. I make my own cleaners. I'm very mindful of what I use, like around my house, even on my own self, because I try to keep toxins away from them. They get filtered water, and then they're outside eating poop and you're like, no,
What the heck?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going through all this, get away from that. But, I do have to say, the Facebook groups, the OC consultants group and the My Dog Beat Cancer with Cannabis group is such an amazing spot for support, for help. You're not alone. You're not going through this alone. Everybody's rooting for you, praying for you, has ideas. Like, I mean, I learned a lot of different things of how to do this or how to do that, from the people, and just the support of everybody. And honestly, reading Elizabeth Tatum's Dog Ray-Ban was one of the first stories I read. And when I first joined the one group, that My Dog Beat Cancer, she was going through that Ray-Ban. I'm like, holy crap, look at this. Like, I'm watching live videos of her videotaping the doctor showing the MRI results of this tumor being gone, this brain tumor gone. And I'm like, so this is not like those weight loss things that like they can, fix the pictures up. I watched it live. Like I watched her post these videos and I was following her story and reading more and more about how many dogs that this has helped. And I'm like, you know what? I got to do this. I have to do this. And I'm so glad I did. And like, you guys have been just saviors to me. And there's not even enough thanks in the world for what you have done.
Thank you.
To help people you've never even met,
It's partly because, you trusted us in the first place to help you. And I think that's the first step, right? You got to trust us, and we're here for anybody that needs our help. But inevitably, you need to trust us, because we're going to be giving you advice. We're going to be telling you to do certain things that your vet might even tell you shouldn't do. Like, for example, if your dog is on prednisone, your vet will tell you sometimes, we're going to keep giving your dog this prescription for life.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that. Or some pain medications for life, or something for the liver, Denamarin, or something for inflammation, gabapentin, tramadol, whatever.
Yeah.
Those prescriptions, just be aware, guys, that the prescriptions do have some healing properties, in the fact that if we're taking away inflammation, it could lead to your dog feeling better. But a lot of the times the prescriptions will have side effects that will introduce other issues that we don't necessarily want. And so to avoid prescriptions, I'm not telling anybody, don't do the prescriptions. But what I'm telling people is, if we can find an alternate route, which anybody who's, trying to do something for themselves or their family, they always want the safest route, right? Right now, we've got a lot of things happening in our world that has to do with our health and pharmaceuticals and all that. I'm not saying pharmaceuticals are bad. They have their place. They do help, but let's not get so hung up on them. The cure-all, because they don't necessarily cure your dog. So if we're trying to help your dog get to another level of health, and now we can say your dog's maybe not cured, but in remission, and the issue's not bothering your dog anymore, then let's talk about something that can do that, which would be the cannabis oils. And like you said, Sheri, that was your go-to every time. If diet wasn't perfect, if everything, the supplements weren't perfect, but you always did the cannabis.
Yep. That was my main focus. Got to get that in.
Is what most people need to remember, is that if you're not going to do it perfect, and if you're not going to talk to me even about it, and if you're going to get your own medicine, try to be consistent with the application of those medicines, because it's not going to work if you do it. Like I've heard people, well, I give it every now and then, or I give it in the morning. Sometimes I forget.
Might as well not even bother, kind of, right?
It's not like a prescription where it's going to help the symptoms for 12 hours. And then when it wears off, those symptoms come back. No, we're actually trying to heal the body. So if we're not consistent with the medicines, the information that's contained in the cannabinoids that we're giving your dog won't allow the body to absorb them. And now we're not getting any feedback from the digestive system, the endocannabinoid system, and all these other peripheral and central nervous systems that help the body to heal. They're not responding anymore because you're not being consistent. So the big picture, when we're talking about osteosarcomas, you got to be very proactive. You got to get on something.
Absolutely.
If it's going to be surgery to remove the affected limb, get that done, as long as if you feel comfortable with it and if it's safe to do for your dog's age. And from there, you need to be positive, because the whole time that you're doing it, no matter if you believe it's not going to work or it is going to work, you have to do what you need to do for your dog. That's why you mentioned earlier, Sheri, I can't believe that you would still have a good attitude, Jesse, after talking to someone. Well, I kind of do the same thing, right? When I talk to every person, I can't bring to the table the previous conversation, because the previous person might have been crying to me the whole half hour we were talking. But the next person I talk to, we are on a clean slate. There's nothing but positivity. And we're going to go to the next level to try and help you, right? And that's how we need to approach our way of thinking when we're helping our loved ones. I don't care what anybody else tells me. I don't care if the vet told me, if my neighbors told me, a friend down the street that was walking his dog told me that my dog is not going to make it. I believe my dog's going to make it. And with Jesse's help and Isabel's help, we can get this done, right? And that, to me, is where I really thank you, because you trusted us to do that, right? You entrusted us to.
Oh, absolutely. I put all my hope, not hope, but trust in you. Because once I said, I'm going to do this, I'm doing it. I'm jumping all in, like I'm going with it. And I'm so glad I did. And you know what, too, everybody says your attitude, try not to be upset in front of your dog. They pick up on that, and they do. They sure do. And you know what? I had such an easier time with this the second time around, because I knew what to expect. And it was like, okay, when the doctor told me, I cried, I fell on the floor, I cried, I got in my car, I cried, called you. And I was like, okay, let's go. Let's fight this fight now. We got this. I totally changed my attitude, and I'm like, now I know I can believe in this. I've been through this now, and I believe in it. And my whole attitude is so different. And I know that my dog is picking up on the different attitude, and she's just happy and she's loving life. And I'm walking around the beach and people are like, oh, what happened to her leg? I'm like, yeah. She's like, she looks so good. I'm like, they're like, how old is she? I'm like, 12 and a half. They're like, 12 and a half. They're like, she looks like you wouldn't even know. I didn't even know she was missing a leg until I looked. I'm like, you know what? And I start telling them all about, well, I'm treating her with cannabis with THC. And I'm like, I get into the spiel and people are probably like, I don't think I asked, but okay, I'm telling you anyway, you know, because I'm so excited about it because I believe it and I've seen it work and I can't talk enough about it. And whether you want to hear it or not, sorry, you're hearing my story.
Well, we appreciate you spreading the word because we do see you on Facebook talking to people all the time and encouraging them to do something at least, you know, whether or not they talk to us or whatever, but do something. Sheri, what would be your biggest, I guess, piece of advice that you would offer somebody other than, you know, getting on board? But what piece of advice would you give somebody that's just watching this video for the first time? Their dog has an osteo, they're nervous, their vet has told them that their dog's not going to do very well in the future. What would you tell that person?
Make as many wonderful memories for as long as you can. Beautiful. And I believe that this cannabis will give you that quality of life to continue making more memories. And forever, how long you can do that. Maybe it might be a short period of time. Maybe it might be a long period of time. But you know what? It's going to be a good period of time because your dog's going to be feeling a lot better than going through toxic treatments and back and forth to the vet and being stressed out. Your time spent with your dog is going to be enjoying life, not back and forth to the vet, you know, and just, it's all about quality, I think, over quantity. I mean, quality over quantity. Yeah. And just keep making wonderful memories for as long as you can. And don't be afraid to take the pictures, even when you look crappy, because you're going to be thankful you have those pictures of your dog. Every picture I have of me and my dog, I look like a hot mess, but you know what? I'm thankful that I have those pictures, you know?
We're probably going to put up a bunch of those pictures throughout the video.
Okay. I'm looking like a hot mess.
Every picture's up on there.
But the bottom line is I'm happy and my dogs are happy. And I don't care that I look like a hot mess because I'm happy and I'm thankful.
Well, we're so glad that we were able to help you, Sheri. And we're very, very happy that, you know, Ollie's doing so great. And at this point, we're going to continue to stay in touch with you to make sure that obviously Ollie stays, you know, very much in remission. But on top of that, we want to follow Ollie's journey, you know, and kind of document some more of that. So maybe down the road, we'll have another podcast and do a follow-up with Ollie and see how he's doing. But for now, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job. All your hard work has paid off. And, you know, let's stay in touch and keep Ollie very healthy.
For sure. I can't thank you guys enough. You truly are angels here on earth. And for all the people that are listening to this, trust you guys. I'm telling you, like I said, it sounds a little sketchy, sounds a little like, I don't know what to believe. Right. Just trust you. You know what you're doing and just believe in it and go with it.
Well, thank you.
You know,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I want to thank my beautiful wife again and soul behind the engineer's place over here, helping us out. Once again, guys, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Orange County Consultants in the Healing Project, and check out our YouTube channel on our channel on YouTube. Orange County. No, sorry.
No, it's the Healing Project.
Healing Project OC. Yeah. Gosh, I got that right. And our webpage, if you guys need help, if you guys need to get a hold of us, you can reach us either through our website, which is healing-project.info, healing-project.info, or through any one of our social media groups. You can even message me directly through Facebook. I give my number out all the time. People can hear there. It's out there and you can get it right now. It's 626-890-0474. Call me directly. It's very simple. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the Healing Project OC. And we'll see you again very soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.